NFL free agency madness has finally sort of maybe died down. I'm gonna rank every single team's free agency. Let's start with probably my favorite division for NFL free agency. Let's start with the NFC East. I know we're beating a dead horse here, or maybe a dead cowboy. Let's just start with one of the few D-tier teams, Dallas Cowboys. Here's the thing, not every team is gonna be able to make a ton of free agent signings every single season, but number one, with what the Dallas Cowboys could have done and the amount of talent that they lost, they only got significantly worse. Tony Pollard, Tyron Smith, Tyler Biadasz, and you signed nobody. Their only really notable signing was Eric Kendricks, so veteran linebacker signing. And you lost Dorrance Armstrong as well. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be bad next year, but they certainly got worse. And it's almost like they were... I mean, they actually re-signed their long snapper. It's almost like they were messing with the fans. Dak Prescott's getting paid a lot. CeeDee Lamb's getting paid a lot. They're one of few D-tier teams. Horrible free agency for the Dallas Cowboys. No shock there. I am going to go S-tier for the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles are on the other end of the spectrum. You don't just get an S tier just for spending a ton of money, but I do think the Eagles had a spectacular free agency. Saquon Barkley, dream fit for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've always been kind of confused by their backfield. Even when they had DeAndre Swift, it felt like Kenneth Gainwell was coming in and sharking touchdowns, or Boston Scott was getting reps. That obviously works in the NFL, but when you have a guy like Saquon who can actually be a bell cow, woo! I'm really excited. So you get Saquon. You get Bryce Huff from the Jets. Bryce Huff had a spectacular season. This was honestly a huge blow to the Jets. It sucks that they weren't able to get him back. Great for Bryce Huff. CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was a 1 year on the Detroit Lions, seemed like he was gonna be a Detroit Lion. We had the cap space to re-sign him, and he goes and signs a 3-year, $33 million with Philly, which is amazing for Philly. You also get Devin White, another great linebacker, and then you have Kenny Pickett, which is a very good, reliable backup for Jalen Hurts. You lose DeAndre Swift, okay, but you upgraded at running back. Jason Kelce retired, Fletcher Cox retired, Kevin Byard's getting passed around. You lose Mariota, you lose Nicholas Morrow. Overall, they got significantly better despite some massive retirements. Like, Kelce and Cox retiring is like a huge blow to Philly, but they did such a good job in free agency covering that I think they're going to be an excellent team once again this year. They look like shit in the playoffs though this year. They look like shit in the playoffs this year. I don't know what happened at the latter end of that season for Philly, but I hope they can get it together. I really do want to see Jalen Hurts get a Super Bowl. Next up on the list is Washington Commanders, who I'm going to tentatively put at B, potentially A, but for right now, I want to put them at B, and here's why. The Washington Commanders signed probably more players than anybody. Did they improve the roster? Sure. They certainly improved their roster, but some of these signings are so mind-boggling to me. Austin Eckler? No offense to Austin Eckler, but I think a lot of us saw him this season. This is an aging, slowing down, unhitched the trailer running back. Zach Ertz, same thing. Zach Ertz, Eckler, Bobby Wagner. If it was 8 years ago, I would be like, yo, the Commanders, okay. But these are signings to me that a team would make if they're making a playoff push. These are signings for a team that's already very competitive and just wants a little veteran leadership, maybe a little boost. For the Commanders to be doing this is weird to me. I'd almost think you just would save the money and not sign some of these guys, get cheaper options. The really good signings though, Tyler Biadasz and Nick Allegretti. Offensive line got a lot better in Washington. I think that's really good. Mariota, presumably Marcus Mariota is just gonna be like the mentor / the backup to whoever they draft. That is my thought here. I think whoever they draft will likely be a starter, and it's kind of the same thing that you feel like the Bears are doing with Caleb Williams, where they're loading up on all this talent to kind of make things easier for the rookie. But I don't know, a lot of these signings, it just kind of looks like they were fucking playing Madden and they needed to build a full team, so they did it all at once. You lost both your quarterbacks. You lost Gibson. You lost Kendall Fuller. You lost Curtis Samuel. I don't know. I'm not happy giving this team an A. They certainly signed a lot of players. I think, honestly, I would give Washington a better free agency grade if they had just signed Biadasz, Allegretti, Dorrance Armstrong. The rest of these don't make sense to me. They did enter free agency with the most cap space in the NFL. Just feels like they're throwing money around just because they have it. I do like the Jeremy Chin signing. They got him for cheap, and I like Frankie Louvu. This is why I'm like tempted to put them in A. I'm kind of cool with it, but I don't know. I'm not there yet with Washington. New York Giants free agency. So obviously the huge signing was Brian Burns, which technically wasn't a signing, it was a trade. They got him for pretty cheap. A 2nd rounder and a 5th rounder, I believe, for Brian Burns. Now they have to pay him an exorbitant amount of money. He's a 5-year, $150 million, but dude, great player to get. They have an absolutely insane pass rush now. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau. This is a really good signing for the Giants. I'm excited for them. Devin Singletary means almost nothing to me. You get John Runyon, Jermaine Illuminor, so you're working on the offensive line. Get Drew Lock, I guess. I mean, to me, the problem for the Giants, and that's always been the problem, is since they got Daniel Jones, he's just not the guy. I am kind of like a Daniel Jones hater. I just feel like it's a quarterback league, and you're not going to see this crazy success with Daniel Jones. So until you do something about the Daniel Jones thing, a lot of this doesn't matter. I almost want to give them B. If I'm going to give Commanders B, I'm going to give Giants B too. Saquon leaving, Xavier McKinney leaving, that's tough. Both those guys are excellent. Xavier McKinney's really, really good. Love him. And obviously Saquon Barkley's one of the best running backs in the league. I don't know how they would have retained Saquon. Philly's offering more money, and they're a more competitive team who has a more running back friendly backfield. It's a no-brainer for Saquon Barkley. So I'm not really blaming the Giants for this, but I feel like a lot of Saquon's years were wasted in New York, which is a bummer. This is the NFC East. Philly killed it. Washington and the Giants, they made some good moves, but they lost a lot of guys too. And Dallas didn't sign anybody. You're going to get a D. Let's go to the NFC North next. I'm going to go to the Detroit Lions next. That is my team, of course. Honestly, I'm a little underwhelmed with our free agency. So we picked up Carlton Davis. I love this. I do not like our corners right now. Really happy to have Carlton Davis on the team. This is a great pickup. Marcus Davenport, DJ Reader. We're trying to get a little extra pass rush help for Aiden Hutchinson. I also like those signings. They're really solid. Really excited to see how DJ Reader plays. We retain Glasgow, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Emmanuel Mosley, and our kicker, Michael Badgey's actually a dog, so really happy to have him back. We lost Jonah Jackson. We lost CJ Gardner-Johnson. The CJ Gardner-Johnson thing, I was just talking about it, but I don't know how that happened. I don't know how he leaves Philly, comes here for a year, goes right back to Philly after we just had so much success. Some people believe CJ Gardner-Johnson was not a good Detroit fit. Obviously, you know, he did that wave in the game against San Fran, and then we lost. I think some people believe that he was no longer an organizational fit after that. I don't know if that's true, but it is confusing to me. I'm not going to give us an A. I'm just going to give us a B. We absolutely got better, but I think it was underwhelming considering how much cap space we had. We had the 8th most cap space in the NFL, in the whole NFL, and we just went to the NFC Championship. I felt like we would have made a bigger signing. I felt like we would have made a bigger push for a bigger name, and we ended up with some really solid role players, and maybe that's all we need, but I'm going to give it a B. So here's a tough one. The Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings made a lot of big signings, and they were in the news a lot, right? Because they pick up Aaron Jones from an NFC North rival. You signed Sam Darnold, who's obviously probably not going to be the starter. I imagine the Vikings will probably trade up in the draft and try and get one of the top quarterback talents. I assume. If not, you actually are starting Sam Darnold, and then you get Greenard from Houston. You got Blake Cashman. You got Van Ginkel from Miami, who I like. But this team, to me, got objectively worse. Just so much worse in free agency because you lose Kirk Cousins, who's, I think, a very underrated quarterback. I think he gets a lot of shit, but he's good. You lose Davenport to another NFC North rival. You lose Daniil Hunter, who's like a staple of Minnesota. And you lose Jordan Hicks. Minnesota's going to get the first C for me. Good job on the Aaron Jones signing. Replacing some of that pass rush with Jonathan Greenard is nice. Picked up some nice linebackers to fill in for Jordan Hicks, but just not a good free agency. I'm going to throw the Green Bay Packers in A tier. They really almost could be S tier. Josh Jacobs signing and Xavier McKinney. So really, they got one of the best running backs available in free agency and probably the best safety available in free agency. Now, the way they ended things with Aaron Jones was not good, and now he's on the Vikings, so that's a little weird, but if Aaron Jones isn't going to be a Packer and you're able to instantly fill that hole with Josh Jacobs, and then Darnell Savage is not going to be a Packer, and you instantly fill that hole with Xavier McKinney, who's better. This is a really good free agency for the Green Bay Packers. Didn't make too many other big moves. They did lose John Runyon. They really just had 2 massive signings and called it a day. You know, you got Washington signing 12 players and Green Bay just signing 2 fucking heaters. So it was a very efficient free agency for Green Bay. So I'm giving them an A tier. Chicago Bears. Now, if you consider that Chicago is taking Caleb Williams, which at this point they're absolutely taking Caleb Williams, I think they had a spectacular free agency. I'm going to give Chicago an A tier. This article doesn't have it, but obviously a key addition for Chicago was Keenan Allen. I mean, that's a huge part of this deal. I gotta say, DeAndre Swift is overrated. I just think he is. I don't think DeAndre Swift is all he's cracked up to be, so I think they overpaid on DeAndre Swift. Kevin Byard, he's also been kind of tapering off from where he used to be, but still a great signing. Gerald Everett's a vet, you know, but I liked him on the Chargers. He's still playing pretty good football, so I like that signing as well. And then Keenan Allen, obviously huge for your rookie quarterback coming in. And then you re-sign Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson's a fucking monster. Jalen Johnson's a dog. This Also, really good free agency for the Chicago Bears. They're going to take Caleb Williams, and he's going to have no excuses. They got rid of Justin Fields for him. They're going to draft him. You got Keenan Allen. You got Everett. You did lose Darnell Mooney, whatever. They still have DJ Moore, right? Yeah, this is an absolutely disgusting wide receiver core. So technically right now, Tyson Bagent is the starter, but that'll be Caleb Williams, who has DeAndre Swift, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, Gerald. Ugh, that's so good. Chicago could be a problem. If Caleb Williams is as good as he's supposed to be, they will be a problem. I guess that means I'm on to the NFC South now. Honestly, this article says exactly what I feel about the New Orleans Saints, so I'm just going to read this bar for bar because I couldn't write this any better. The Saints' burning desire to continue restructuring almost every contract on their books to chase NFC South contention is severely limiting their ability to do anything in free agency besides re-sign some of their own players. The Saints are in cap hell, and you know what they went and did? They signed Chase Young. I actually think this was a bad move. They signed Chase Young to a 1-year, $13 million deal. I don't get this. It's hard to say like just tank, right? Just tank. But you're not going to win something significant right now with Derek Carr back there. You're just not. They got Chase Young, and honestly, Chase Young, he's underwhelming. He's underwhelming. That's it. Chase Young is underwhelming. I'm giving the Saints a C tier. I'm not giving them D. If they hadn't signed Chase Young, I probably would just go D tier. It's a nice signing. They got a really good free agent. I'm giving the Atlanta Falcons an S tier. I am absolutely giving the Atlanta Falcons an S tier. Atlanta Falcons. The problem in Atlanta, ever since Matt Ryan left, is quarterback play. That's it. Atlanta has an awesome defense. They have tons of talent. Excellent talent. And now they have Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to pretend like Kirk Cousins is like God incarnate or something, but he's a great quarterback. You add Darnell Mooney as well. You add Rondale Moore, who is a slept-on stud. I can't wait to see Rondale Moore over there. You still have Kyle Pitts. You still have Bijan Robinson. You still have Drake London. You still got the whole defense. I think Atlanta's going to be a problem. It was just an incredible free agency. They made all the exact moves you would hope that your team makes, and Atlanta fans should be really excited. Next up is the Panthers. I think the Panthers had, despite signing a lot of people, they had a really tough free agency, mainly in the departures department. Brian Burns, gone. Probably your best player. Frankie Louvu, gone. Dante Jackson, gone. And even more importantly about Brian Burns, hindsight is 2020, yeah, but Brian Burns was worth 2 first-round picks just 2 years ago, right? When Los Angeles offered a trade, and now they give him up for a 2nd and a 5th. So they're already really struggling. It's already was such a tough year for Bryce Young, and you go and lose so many good players. Yeah, you signed Deontay Johnson. It's a pretty cool signing. I like Deontay Johnson. Get Sean Robinson, Josie Jewell, Dane Jackson. It's a bad team that got worse. It's a very tough free agency for the Panthers. They're not worthy of D tier. They're trying. D tier right now is reserved for, you got to have a really bad free agency to hang out with the Dallas Cowboys right now. That's what I'll say, but they get C tier. Tampa Bay is actually an awesome example of a team not signing really anybody. In fact, they may not have signed anybody, but I'm still giving them A tier. They retained the core of this roster. You did lose some pieces. Carlton Davis, Devin White, Shaq Barrett, and then Ryan Jensen retired. Shaq Barrett, Devin White, that's not good. Carlton Davis was a trade, so you got some value out of that. Ryan Jensen's out of your control, but getting Baker back, getting Winfield back, getting Mike Evans back, Levante Davis back, really those first 3 is the big one. That was huge for Tampa Bay. I think a lot of people thought Mike Evans was going to leave, or that Winfield was going to leave, and all 3 of those guys stay, so that's huge. You almost could argue B for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they did lose a lot of talent. There's a lot of guys they lost, but I'm still going to give them A just for retaining those 3 guys. It's massive for Tampa Bay. Let's move on to the AFC East. I'm giving Miami a C tier. Now, Miami's a team that signed a lot of players, but I still think they got objectively worse. They lost too much good talent. You lost Robert Hunt to Carolina. You lost Christian Wilkins, who's amazing. Christian Wilkins is so good. You lose Brandon Jones. You lose Van Ginkel. You release Jerome Baker. You release Emmanuel Ogbah. Sheesh. I mean, they got decimated, and then they replaced them with Jordan Poyer. I like Jordan Poyer, who's a little on the old side. Shaq Barrett, same thing, a little on the old side. Jonnu Smith. What is the obsession with Jonnu Smith? Anthony Walker, I do like that signing. Kendall Fuller, Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks. It was like a 7-player swap. They just cycled all these players out and cycled all these players back in. I just think bar for bar, they got a lot worse. We'll move on to the Buffalo Bills, who honestly got decimated too. I mean, you signed Mitch Trubisky. Of course, I'm giving you C tier. They signed Mitch Trubisky. They signed Curtis Samuel. Love Curtis Samuel. That's big. In my books, that's big. But you lose. Oh my God, you just got fucking wrecked. Gabe Davis, Leonard Floyd, Jordan Poyer, Deontay Hardy, Mitch Morse, Nyheim Hines. This is a C tier. AFC East did not have a great free agency. Jets were just quiet. They added no players and they lost Bryce Huff, and Bryce Huff is a dog. This was a really bad free agency for the Jets too. You didn't sign anybody and you only lost a really good player, so. Oh, well, wait. Sorry, that article doesn't have it. They did get Mike Williams. I'm not giving them B tier. Mike Williams is a great signing. That's huge for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's gonna love that. Him and Garrett Wilson be sick. You still lost Bryce Huff. You added a good player. You lost a really good player. I'm keeping him in C tier. I can't have the Jets in the same tier as the Bills. Jets lost Bryce Huff, but they got Mike Williams. They have to be above the Bills. I'm putting them in B tier. All right, let's go to the AFC North. Starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who made so many sick signings. Holy shit. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. It's weird to me. I don't know who's gonna start, but it's awesome. And objectively, their quarterback room got better. Say what you want about Russ, say what you want about Justin Fields. They're better than Kenny Pickett, so I don't want to hear it. They got better. Patrick Queen's a dog. Dante Jackson's a dog. They added Von Jefferson. He's not on Deontay Johnson's level, so Deontay Johnson leaving is a bummer. But other than that, you got some value out of Kenny Pickett, who's not going to be playing there. This is a great free agency for the Pittsburgh. I'm not going to give him an S tier. I think I'd go S tier if I felt more confident in Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. But the duo of two quarterbacks that I don't feel great about is just a little weird to me. Still a great free agency. Pittsburgh gets an A. I think people are going to be mad at me for this one, but Baltimore Ravens. Even this article has the Baltimore Ravens as an A-. I'm putting the Baltimore Ravens in B tier. Derrick Henry signing's amazing. There's no question. That's going to be a crazy backfield. I'm really excited about it. Here's the thing. You lose Geno Stone. You lose Patrick Queen. Those are huge losses. Geno Stone was amazing this year. Also, I hate to be that guy because Derrick Henry does defy it, but Derrick Henry is old. There is a limited amount of value in this signing. It's going to be excellent this year. It'll probably be excellent next year too. Beyond that, I don't know. I don't know that Derrick Henry will be in the league 3 years from now. I'm not going to give them A tier because they lost Geno Stone and Patrick Queen. If they retained all their players and got Derrick Henry, they'd get A tier. But I'm going B tier on the Baltimore Ravens. Probably my most unpopular opinion thus far in this video. So Cincinnati Bengals. They get Zach Moss. They get Geno Stone. They get Mike Gesicki. They re-signed T. Higgins with the franchise tag. They lose Joe Mixon, Chidobe Awuzie, Irv Smith. They really just did a swap in my books. I don't think they really made anything significant. I think the biggest signing is Geno Stone. Geno Stone is really good. I really like him. Gesicki's nice too. I think Joe Burrow's gonna like to have a guy like Mike Gesicki, and it's good to get T. Higgins back, who's a stud. Zach Moss is nice. I don't think he's that different than Joe Mixon. Losing Chidobe Awuzie is a blow, and I think this article has it well. I think they just get a B tier. It was a solid free agency. Nothing flashy. Didn't get much worse. Didn't get much better. Cleveland Browns. They pick up Jerry Jeudy and Jameis Winston, fan favorite. They lose Taki, Anthony Walker, Mike Ford. Those aren't the worst departures, but these aren't the biggest additions either. Jerry Jeudy, at this point in his career, has not lived up to the hype at all. Jerry Jeudy was a, 15th overall pick. Really thought this guy was going to be incredible. He just hasn't quite been that. Is that Denver's fault? Is that Russell's fault? Who knows? Steve Smith famously took shit about Jerry Jeudy. We'll see. I think they get smack dab right on B as well. You got Jerry Jeudy for good value. If you can unlock his potential, it'll be a great signing, but they really didn't do much other than that. All right, now we're just going to go in order. I see Denver Broncos next, so let's go take a look there. They do deserve to be with the Dallas Cowboys. You lost Justin Simmons. You released your quarterback who you paid an absolute shit ton. You lost Cushenberry. You lost Josie Jewell. You lost Jerry Jeudy. You didn't pick up anybody. They're so fucked. I don't even know if this is a free agency problem. It's just like Denver is so fucked right now. Sorry. There's no other way to put it. Denver and Dallas can hang out down here because that's just how it has to be. The Rams re-signing Dotson was actually really big. I think a lot of people thought Dotson was leaving, so it's a really good re-signing. They also got Jonah Jackson from Detroit, and they get Darius Williams. They didn't do too much. They didn't lose anybody either. They get smack dab on B tier. San Fran 49ers, so they were unable to keep Chase Young, who now went to the Saints. I just don't think Chase Young was that impactful. I think on paper it looked really good, and then he really didn't do too much. They got Leonard Floyd. Oh, no, you know what? And they lost Eric Armstead, too. I apologize, guys. This article doesn't have exactly everything, but they lost Eric Armstead, too. So you lose Chase Young, you lose Eric Armstead. That's pretty big. I think I have to put San Fran in D tier for losing. I mean, Eric Armstead's so good. That is a bummer for them. The next team I want to talk about is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Almost could throw the Jaguars in S tier. Let me go over this real quick. So they got Mac Jones, which I think is hilarious. Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, Darnell Savage, Eric Armstead. Yeah, sorry. And they franchise tag Josh Allen. They're getting S tier. They deserve it. Number one, they knew that Calvin Ridley wanted an absolute bag. Calvin Ridley is 30. Calvin Ridley had a whole year off football. They basically said, yeah, we're going to go pick up Gabe Davis for cheaper, which was, I think, is genius. Number one, I don't think Calvin Ridley was worth what Tennessee paid him. Mitch Morse is an amazing signing. Darnell Savage, love him. Eric Armstead is so worth the money. He's a fucking monster. This was an S tier free agency for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Keep loading up. You've got your quarterback. I love Trevor Lawrence. You've got a lot of talent on this team. I really hope Jacksonville has a great season. Gosh, Raiders. So Raiders lose Josh Jacobs. They lose Jermaine Eluemunor, but they get Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby, crazy duo. You really do have to dock them for losing Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs so good. If you retain Josh Jacobs, you get A. If you don't get Wilkins, you get C. So you get B. Added a great defensive player, lost Josh Jacobs. Arizona Cardinals, I think I misjudged them a little bit earlier. They made a lot more signings than I was aware of. Justin Jones, Mac Wilson, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jonah Williams, Desmond Ridder. They had a lot of money to spend. These are nice role players. Not big difference makers, though. They're good signings, certainly improving. Losing Rondale Moore is not the end of the world. I think the exciting thing for Arizona is they have 2 first-round picks coming up in the draft. So I think they're just getting ready to take these 2 draft picks and kind of have a really overhauled team going into next season. Not giving them A tier. I came into this thinking I was going to give them C tier, but I didn't give them the credit that they deserve. They get B tier. Seahawks, they re-signed Leonard Williams, which was big. They picked up Sam Howell, I guess. Seattle's getting a B tier for me. They lost some players. They picked up Jerome Baker, and they re-signed. Re-signing Leonard Williams was big for them. I'm going to leave that at that. Patriots did a spectacular job re-signing their guys that they really like. I'm glad that they traded Mac Jones. I think that was the right call, and then they just got to go ahead and draft somebody. But I think all things considered, New England actually did have a good free agency. They're really struggling right now. They finally have fully given up on Mac Jones. You re-signed Duggar, Onwenu, Bourne, Henry, Rager. They re-signed a ton of players, and they added Okorafor, Takitaki, Hooper, Gibson. They made some moves. I don't know if I'm willing to give them A tier. I'll give them B tier for now. I feel like a few of these teams could probably get bumped up to A tier. Oh, I could bump Baltimore up to A. I could bump... Who else could realistically get A here? I'm going to give New England and Baltimore the A tier. I'm going to move them up. I had too many in B tier. I was fucking riding the fence a little too much there. Houston Texans free agency. Re-signing Dalton Schultz. Love him. Re-signed Kaimi Fairbairn. Got Joe Mixon, Daniil Hunter, Lonnie Johnson, Okuda, Azeez Al-Shaair, Danico Autry. You lose Devin Singletary, whatever. Jonathan Greener, that does suck. Losing him, but you basically just did a swap with the Vikings. I'm actually going to give Houston an A tier. Houston is in a good spot. This is a good free agency. They made a lot of moves. Excited to see that. Re-signing Dalton Schultz is huge. You only got better. Kansas City is also getting A. Now, Nick Allegretti leaving, I think that is big. Willie Gay Jr., whatever. Re-signing Chris Jones, that could not have been fun. Now, this does say key signing L'Jarius Sneed, but they did re-sign him technically to his franchise tag, and then he was traded. Kansas City doesn't want to pay their fucking corners. So that's a blow too. But what this doesn't have is they got Hollywood Brown. They also got Matt Araiza, who's a fucking insane punter. This guy is a god. Like, he is the best college punter prospect I have ever personally seen. Irv Smith doesn't mean too much to me. I am giving Kansas City an A tier. You'd like to keep Sneed, but you don't need to pay him that much. The Kansas City Chiefs have proven that they don't give a shit about paying people that they don't give a shit about paying, and it doesn't matter because they win Super Bowls. I trust the process. They got Chris Jones back. They got Araiza. They got Hollywood Brown. Big time A tier for them. I'm going to tentatively put the Chargers in D tier. You lost Austin Eckler. You lost Keenan Allen. You lost Mike Williams. You lost Kenneth Murray. You lost Gerald Everett. You signed Gus Edwards and Will Dissly. You get a D tier. You are wasting your franchise quarterback. Oh my God, what are we doing? Brandon Staley should have been fired 2 years ago. Now you go ahead and get the head coach. You go ahead and get Harbaugh. And then your whole wide receiver core departs? What? I mean, literally, like the running back that you passed to and a tight end you passed to and your wide receiver 1 and 2. D tier. Titans made a bunch of signings. I'm actually going to give them A tier. Calvin Ridley's an overpay. I don't see a lot of value in Mason Rudolph. Pollard's great. Cushenberry's great. Kenneth Murray is great. Chidobe Awuzie is great. And Calvin Ridley is great. You just paid him a little too much. I'm going to give them A tier. They really could be B. Final one is the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what the hell they did in free agency. They got Joe Flacco. They re-signed Michael Pittman. They lost Minshew, Zach Moss, Isaiah McKenzie. I think this is a perfect B tier. You re-signed a lot of the guys that you really want on this team. You didn't add much. You didn't lose much. I'm going to give them a B tier. This is my NFL free agency tier list. A lot of yapping. Please let me know what you think in the comments. If I egregiously butchered something, just remember that it was an AI computer algorithm that is correct 100% of the time. I love you guys. Thanks so much as always. Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.